Hello, everyone. I wanted to have an additional recording for an example of using the limiting reagent concept. The reason I'm doing this is because the audio quality was not great in that recording, and I wanted to have something there for you. I'm not going through the whole introduction of that again. However, I did want to at least go through an example of the limiting reagent concept for you. So apologize for the poor audio on the other recording. Hopefully this one will be sufficient to get you through that. If not, please feel free to ask questions on the discussion board. So let's look at this question. What is the limiting reagent for the following reaction when 3 moles of N2 reacts with 5 moles of H2? So some things to notice here. We are provided two numbers, moles of N2 and moles of H2. It is asking for the identity of the limiting reagent. So this is definitely a limiting reagent question. Our clues there are, again, that it is saying specifically the word limiting reagent. Also that you're given two amounts, so amounts of two different things, and those things are both reactants. Okay, so if you're given amounts of two reactants, you're probably looking at a limiting reagent question. So what we need to do here is we need to compare them in terms of the same thing. So how many can we make? How many NH3s can we make from the 3 N2s? How many NH3s can we make from the 5 H2s? So let's go through and do that. Let's start with the N2, simply because that is the first one that is given to us. So we have 3.0 moles N2. We need to convert that to the product. So we have 2 moles NH3 for every 1 mole of N2. Okay. Again, these are just the the coefficients from the balanced equation. So we do the math there. We have 3 times 2 would give us 6.0 moles of NH3. Okay, so if we had 3 moles of N2, we could make 6 moles of NH3. We're also given 5 moles of H2, 5.0 moles of H2. As you're doing these calculations, remember that you're taking the moles that are provided up here as your starting point, and then the stoichiometric coefficients as your conversion factor. So 5 moles of H2. Here we have 2 moles of NH3. We'll need 3 moles of H2. Okay, so we do the math there. So we have 5 times 2 is 10. 10 divided by 3 would give us 3.33 moles of NH3. Okay, so if we had 5 moles of H2, we could make 3.33 moles of NH3. So now what we do is we make a decision. We have been given the amounts of both of our reactants, N2 and H2, and from each of those we've said, well, this is how much of the product we can make. And we notice between these two numbers, this one is smaller, and that's telling us that when we have this number, we have this as what was limiting that. So the limiting reagent is whichever reactant gives you the smallest amount. And so in this case, it's the hydrogen. Okay, so this is our answer to the question. The limiting reagent is hydrogen because hydrogen gave us the smallest amount of our product. Sometimes people might be tempted to pick NH3. That is simply the product. The product can never be the limiting reagent. The limiting reagent will always be one of the reactants. It's whichever one gives you the smaller amount. Okay, so hydrogen in this case.